lot of drama for the BYU football team this year, but Saturday at Lavelle Edwards Stadium wasn't one of the days where the Cougars had to worry about it. BYU welcomed Idaho State into town and then sent them away, the losers of a 56-3 beatdown. No real surprise here. I'm Jared Lloyd, BYU football beat writer for the Daily Herald, here with Jason Franchuk, BYU football columnist for the Daily Herald and Cougarblue.com. Jason, what do you take from a game like this? No real surprise that BYU was able to come out and get a big win.
Yeah, I think what you take away is they did what they were supposed to do. You know, I remember when I was at Kansas, they played what was then a Division I AA team. Obviously now it's FCS. But a player the week of the game said, we're going to treat them like the Division I AA team that they are. And it was kind of a rude, unnecessary quote, but that's what BYU needed to do today. They came out, they used Riley Nelson, the receivers looked good. Too many penalties if you ask me, but other than that, pretty good defense, good scoring, and they were able to get the reserves in. That's exactly what Mendenhall wanted to do, plus they didn't lose anybody. I've seen these games before when you lose a guy to a fluke injury late in the game even. They didn't lose a key player, and as we'll talk about, they've got a big game coming up in a few days, but Bronco doesn't like these games, these FCS opponents this time of year, but I think for this particular team, it was a pretty good setup for them.
You know, I was wondering how they would come out because Bronco said, and there's some validity to this, that these teams can really play with a team like BYU for a little while before the depth starts to be a factor. BYU came out, got a defensive stop, big blocked punt by Kyle Van Noy, set up a one-play drive, 15-yard touchdown pass from Riley Nelson to Ross Appo, and just like that, BYU was in front. Now, I thought that was the way BYU needed to start the game in this particular one. They ended up rolling to a 35-3 lead at the end of the first half and 56-3 at the end. So really just kind of a workmanship type effort. They didn't really allow Idaho State a lot of things. Anything you saw from this game, Jason, of concern that worries you? You mentioned the penalties. Anything else that you thought was a bad sign as far as the Cougars go?
My only concern was they got Jake Heap's 4 drives. We saw one end by an interception, another end by a fumble. He did have a touchdown drive, but I thought they'd get him in a few more situations where I thought he'd be more productive next week. And he went 8 for 10, but throwing passes, but I'm not sure that he did enough that he can be a real confident threat going to TCU next Friday. But Riley looked good. He had another 99-yard drive, and you know, there was one play there where there was nobody in the backfield where they had a botched handoff, miscommunication. He still got, I think, 13 yards out of it. They are not going to get that against TCU next week. But to see the receivers make some plays, I think Cody Hoffman continues to develop. He went up high, caught a nice pass. They've got this program rolling again, but they're going to get a real test come Friday at TCU.
5 straight wins for the BYU football team, a good winning streak, but the last real big game of the season probably as they go to Texas Stadium. They go play at Cowboy Stadium, Jerry World. Once again, they go play TCU, a team that has absolutely dominated them the last 3 years. It'll be exciting to see whether this team is a team that can play with the Horned Frogs coming up next Friday.